Payment Protection Program. As of yesterday, the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act of 2020 was passed by the House and the Senate, and it's on the President's desk to be signed. We're assuming that the President's going to sign it. I think I don't think it will not be signed. It's just a matter of when. Hopefully, in the coming days. Say that again.
He's gonna sign it.
Yeah. Basically, you know, a lot of groups out there across the country got together and were concerned that they weren't going to be able to meet the requirements of the loan forgiveness that comes along with the PPP program. One in particular is the hospitality business groups around the country. We have the hospitality groups to partly thank for this, I guess the speed in which this act did come about. It came about just in time because a lot of the 8-week period was just about up for a lot of businesses, and they were going to have to fill out this application. And I've gotten a slew of questions and concerns late at night, even on my text and phone. Hey, Will, I need to fill out this loan forgiveness program. Please help. You know, and I said, you know, and I actually was, I took a chance and told them, I'm pretty sure they're going to, you know, extend the period, but call me tomorrow. So we'd walk through the process, and I would highly suggest, if you're trying to do it yourself, I would highly suggest getting your CPA involved, because it's kind of a Sunday news day puzzle, so to speak. You know, you have to do some testing and you have to do some math. But what the PPFA is, the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act of 2020, it extends the PPP loan forgiveness extension, and it also provides other friendly changes to business owners under the new rules. The first one is extends the covered period from 8 to 24 weeks or through the end of the year, whichever is earlier. So it all depends on if there's businesses out there that are still due to receive PPP loan proceeds. It will be deferred through the end of the year before the cover period for the loan forgiveness. So again, it's from 8 to 24 weeks. So it went from 2 months down to 6 months, or 12/31/20, whichever's earlier. Now, the initial law said 75% needed to be spent on payroll expenditures, qualified payroll expenditures, and no more than 25% can be spent on certain other expenses, which was mortgage interest, which you can't pay in advance. You can't prepay the mortgage interest, utilities, rent. Now that went down to 40%. So now you can spend up to 40% on non-payroll related expenses that focus on mortgage interest, utilities, and rent. And only 60% needs to be spent on payroll related expenses. So between the 24-week period and the 60% requirement on payroll, I think a lot of businesses are going to find it's a lot easier to get this loan forgiven. Again, you're still going to need to keep good records and still check in with your CPA and or attorney from time to time if need be, because just like the 8-week period, the 24-week period is going to come and go real quick. To have this loan forgiven, it's going to be a big benefit for a lot of businesses out there.
I completely agree with that, and I would actually just specify for people, these changes apply to every loan that's already out there. So if you already have a PPP loan, we've provided with this slide that Will put together the information for applying for a loan, because you still can apply for a PPP loan. The funding is not run out. They have not said they're going to end the program before the end of the year. So if you haven't gotten a PPP loan yet and you want to apply, find your SBA lender, find a local lender, get an application in, get the funding as quickly as you can. But these changes, the 24-week period, the 60/40 rule that they've implemented, and then the employee exemptions, each of these apply to PPP loans that are already out there. So don't think this doesn't apply to you because you've already gotten your PPP loan. A lot of these already apply, and in fact, you need to weigh some of these for instance, Will mentioned the covered period is now 24 weeks. If you find that the 8-week period is more beneficial to your business, you can elect to still use the 8-week period when you apply for forgiveness. The 60-40 rule, that's not a steadfast rule. If you want to spend more than 60% on payroll, you can. You can spend up to 100% on payroll. It's just for those businesses that have other expenses like rent, mortgage interest, and utilities, they can use up to 40% of their PPP loan and still get forgiveness for that loan. Michael, do you have a question?
Yeah, so we have a question here from Rob. Within that 40% that you're talking about, he's asking about health insurance. Can he use some of that to cover health insurance, or should that just be something that the idle loan should take care of? And then people, real quick, that like if they haven't applied for PPP and maybe they don't necessarily have employees, but they have contractors right now, should they apply? Or is it like if you don't have a payroll or you're taking a loss, you shouldn't even apply for the PPP?
Well, I think there's two questions there.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
That's okay. The second, and Will can disagree with me, the answer is almost always yes. Apply for a PPP loan because it's government funding that is forgivable. And if you do it right, you're getting an infusion of cash from the federal government. If you don't do it properly, it's just a loan with a very low interest rate that you just have to pay back. Will, I don't know what you've seen in your practice, but I've seen very few instances where applying for the PPP loan itself is a bad move.
Yeah, right. So to this day, I still tell everyone, if they haven't already, apply for it. The banks are generally real good at telling you what you need. They're going to ask for the information. They've been scripted really well and trained really well to roll out this program. So they're going to ask you for certain things. And Mike, to Mike's point, if there's a loss, if you're a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, and you don't file a separate business return and you have no employees and you have a business loss, I mean, you can apply, but you're not going to get anything. Because what they're going to take is they're going to take your net income on your Schedule C that you would have filed with your 1040. And if there's a loss, there's no funds to receive there. Mike, if you want to restate the first question, I had a good answer, but I lost it.
Sure. Yeah. It was the 40% used towards healthcare, right?
Oh, right.
So there's additional things that they can use it for. Could they use the PPP in that new 40%? Could they use that on healthcare?
You'll have to check back with me on that. I will say no.
Health insurance.
Yep, I got you. So I believe there's a rule where health insurance for owners don't apply, but don't quote me on that. All right, my email's down below. Email me, but I believe there's special rules for owners of a business.
Yeah, I would similarly caution anyone trying to claim health insurance or healthcare costs as part of their forgiveness application, because that's what that 40% is for. Like if you're not going to apply for forgiveness, the 60-40 rule doesn't really apply to you. You do have some restrictions on what you use the funds for. So, but you don't have to use 40% for healthcare costs unless you're applying for forgiveness. And I actually, I apologize for looking away, but I was looking at the loan forgiveness application to see if it's stated anywhere. And the only things that are listed as part of non-payroll costs on the forgiveness application, which unfortunately is some of the very scant information we have about the forgiveness process, you can do covered mortgage obligations, rent obligations, and utility payments. Healthcare costs are not included in that. So absent another regulation or additional guidance that you can look to include healthcare costs in those non-payroll, you probably can't. And if you really need, if you as a business need to include that in there, email 7aquestions@sba.gov, ask for clarification. And then as soon as you get clarification, act on it.
Yeah, you know, and if you have bona fide employees that you're paying payroll to, I believe their health insurance would apply to the 60%. However, there's special rules to, I believe, the owner health insurance does not apply. But again, if you want to shout me an email with the number to call you, I'd be happy to get on the phone and we can walk through it and I can have an answer for you. Because like Dan said, you know, you don't want to, you know, eat up the cost and find out they're not eligible. I will say, and then we'll move on, make sure that at least 60% of the loan is used for payroll costs by the end of the 24-week period. Because if it's not, the loan will not be forgiven. So you have to use at least 60% of those proceeds for payroll-related costs, or the loan will not be forgiven.